Welcome, friends. At least welcome back, anyways, to our second official episode of the Kingdom Recon podcast. If you have been patiently waiting, and I hope that you have been, we apologize for the delay. We've had some scheduling mishaps and just some life things that happened, but we are officially into the college football season, and we're here to talk about that today. So let me do a couple of quick introductions before we jump too far into this. As always, I am Arrowhead Tom. I am the I don't want to say the mastermind, but I'm the one responsible if things go off the rails. I'm the one they're going to yell at. So I'm here joined with my usual co-host, Randy, over here to my right or left, depending on orientation of, I don't know how this flips out, but Randy's here. He is I'm excited to get to talk ball with him today. And then down below us, you'll notice that under not a stranger face, if you are familiar with the Kingdom Says podcast, but maybe not the face you were expecting. Garrett Williams is moonlighting as a Kingdom Recon guest host. He's going to ask us some questions. He's going to share some input. He's going to talk probably too much about Caleb Williams, but how are we doing tonight, fellas?
Doing awesome. Doing awesome.
Good. Doing very good.
Ready to talk some football. I got to watch a lot of it this weekend, so
yeah,
that's always a good time.
Yeah. Like I said, Randy's going to carry. He's got notes and everything. Before we jump into all that, I do want to take care of the business side of things as always. I don't like to. I'm not here to beg or borrow or steal or any of that stuff to go, hey, do this. I know you guys, if you're listening to podcasts, you probably hear it all the time. Like, subscribe, and rate. But we want you to go a little bit further than that. You don't have to like us. You don't have to subscribe to us. Not yet. We acknowledge that we're still in our infancy. We would love your feedback. If you think, I should turn my camera off because I'm ugly, or I should shave my beard, or
not that
if
one.
you think, Randy should do the entire episode in a tutu. I mean, whatever, we want to welcome feedback. If you've got questions about prospects, of course, we always appreciate the likes, the follows, the shares. That's just part of the business. But this is, we could sit around and talk ball all day, the three of us or four of us or however many, but we really do this because we want to have a conversation with a bigger audience as a whole. So we're just inviting you to come along on the journey. And again, like, subscribe, rate, sure, absolutely, if that's something you want to do. But more than that, we just ask that you will leave comments, that you will send messages, you'll interact with us. You will be as talkative and engaged as my dog Scout is, who is currently eating a bone approximately a foot to my right, and that's the loud scraping noise that you hear in the background. So that's it. That's my plea for support and attention. Let's get into some ball. Let's talk about maybe the most I don't want to call it the biggest game of the week, because I think we had a couple of big games, but
right,
one that definitely had a big game feel to it, even going into it, and it kind of ended up a little bit lopsided. FSU, Florida State University versus LSU. What stood out to you, gentlemen?
Yeah, I think that was one of the big games I was probably most pumped for. This opening week. I mean, not often do you get two top 10 teams, pitted at each other from opposing conferences in week one. But number 5 and number 8, there's a whole lot of cats running around on that football field on both teams there. So, in some of the conversations we've had, in the past, talking about this defensive line class, there are some dudes in the trenches all over the place, and watching those guys kind of dominate and take over the game, I think, is really kind of what pushed FSU over the top in the second half to really kind of stymie LSU and allow the offense to kind of take over, put up some big points. A little more lopsided at the end than I expected. I expected, kind of that first half game that we had. First half of that game played out pretty much like I was thinking it would, just kind of a slugfest, feeling each other out. But yeah, FSU got the better of them in the second half, and it was a lot of fun to watch. So, especially that's a great first game, a great first matchup in week one. It was awesome.
Yeah, very entertaining game. Definitely, FSU really showed show that they are on the map. I think going against LSU and Brian Kelly, that new program he's shaping down there. Crazy, a very high scoring game. Obviously 45-24. LSU they stumbled. They definitely looked like they were stumbling out the gates. It just didn't seem like they were a cohesive unit. The LSU's quarterback, threw 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 347 yards, nothing crazy, but compare that to FSU's quarterback, Jordan Travis, he was balling. He definitely
he had a day for sure.
Yeah. He was looking really solid. Everyone on Florida State really was looking. Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver, he's a very interesting prospect that is going to be a fun one in the NFL. Keon Coleman, all these other guys. There were some good players to on display, but FSU, they looked like they knew what they were doing out there.
Yeah. And like Randy said, it was, okay, kind of that first half. And then it's just, like I said, they put their foot down and really just took them to the shed in the second half. And I do want to give a quick shout out to friend of the show on Twitter, ADI_Avery. His actual handle is impeccable. It's at impeccable, IMPECCABLE GRPXS. I tweeted him out earlier this week. He has, we've had some conversations about draft prospects. He has been just banging the drum for Florida State all off season. This man knows ball. And he was talking about some of the guys, obviously Jared Verse is a big name on that defense, but Braden Fisk is another guy that he's been talking about, and Fisk had a good game just in the middle of that defense. So there's a lot. There's a lot of knowledge, but man, what a moment! As I was watching, I was going, "Oh man, Avery was so right." And in Florida State, I think when Jared Verse went back last year, everyone was like, "Well, dude, what are you doing?" Well, it might be a chance to make a run at a national title there. So,
and to improve his draft class from a mid-20s to potentially a top 10 guy too. Like he plays like that the rest of the year. He just moved himself up and made a whole lot more money for himself. He bet on him, and I think he might win. So,
I think that he is. We'll get into him because he's one of my favorites that I've enjoyed watching. But let's pivot real quick to the other. There's a couple big games, but the other big game in the sense of kind of the ripple effect or the just a game that I think was felt across the college football world, and that was Colorado going on the road. Yeah, going on the road to we'll call it an upset because that's what it was. Yeah, on the road to TCU,
national runner-up.
This wasn't nobody. Yeah, so let's talk about that. I also I think we can't get into that game without talking about the absolute superstar performance from Travis Hunter, and I want to and I'm gonna put Randy on the pedestal for a minute. So our first episode we did our 10 guys to watch, and so actually in our initial version of that, Randy had Travis Hunter on that list and then realized that he wasn't draft eligible, but Randy was already on this dude, and I was like, I don't even know who this guy is. And so Randy, you tell us, you're the expert here on Travis Hunter.
Right.
You tell us, what did you see? What do you think?
I've never seen a performance like that. Like, we've had a few guys back in the day that have played both sides of the ball. You have a DB come in and do some gimmicky stuff on offense. Receivers playing special teams. We've never, the closest thing we've seen to this, and I don't want to be blasphemous by any stretch of the imagination, but we haven't seen anyone like this since Charles Woodson. And even Woodson didn't even put in the snaps this kid did. So 145 snaps. Like, he played full throttle all game playing wide receiver and DB. Like, you don't get breaks. I mean, that dude, I can't even fathom the level of exhaustion that he had to have felt. He said he was still good and that he could keep playing, in the post-game press conference. But just to kind of have that performance, the dude is just athletic as you can be. Targeted 9 times. Would he give up 3 catches on defense? Had a pick. Should have had 2. 3 PBUs. He should have had that second pick. 13 targets on offense, 11 catches, 117 yards. It was crazy. It was crazy. The way Colorado came in and chucked the ball around, props to Prime's boy Sanders as well. I mean, a school record, 500 yards. He had 400-yard receivers. Like, they wanted to come out and make a statement, and everyone's watching and listening now. Even my Huskers. We get them next week, but that's going to be an interesting matchup as well. But Hunter played a game like I've never seen. So the kid is supremely talented on both sides of the ball. It just kind of depends, when this is all said and done, how it shakes out. Which side is going to be his dominant side when he comes to draft time. But right now, it's like he could take your pick. He can come in and play wide out for you, or he can come in and lock a guy down too. So it was fun to watch. Tell you what, man, it's fun to watch, and everybody's talking about it. So he made a statement.
I wonder how you Nebraska fans are feeling right now, knowing that
it's going to be
maybe finally tired.
Right?
Oh Lord,
maybe he finally is a little tired. Well, and we were talking about this a little bit pre-show because obviously Hunter's not eligible this year, but there's a big name at wide receiver this year, and what Coach Prime said, is Hunter can come out and be your number one wide receiver or your number one cornerback. Two questions, and you guys can both chime in on this. One, do you think that you could do that at the professional level? And two, where do you think he would fall? Let's say he was draft eligible this year and he kept up. I don't think you could have it a week like this every week. Otherwise, you're probably going number one overall. But let's say he's able to be above average, right? Consistent, whatever, week in, week out. Where do you kind of stack him in this class in terms of the overall value as a player? I think I originally asked, what about like comparing him to Marvin Harrison? Let's back that up and just say, does that give you extra value, or do you worry more about the extra miles and the extra snaps that this kid's played?
That's a very, very good question. It'll be interesting to see what he can sustain through this year. I mean, there's no way he can play this pace all year round. I mean, you wouldn't think.
You wouldn't think.
I mean, we'll wait and see. But he comes out and he puts on a show like that, and say he is draft eligible. I mean, you got a star on either side of the field. I mean, he's got to, have rocketed himself up into that early first round, talk. Like, it's. I can't in full confidence put him over a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. as a full wide receiver, because we've seen one game. We also have to take that into account. It's one game against TCU, who, no knock against TCU, but they are not world beaters when it comes to playing defense. It's the Big 12. It is what it is.
The Big 12 defense,
right? But I tell you what, man, you cannot say enough, I think, about his just athletic talent and his ability to play either position. I mean, so it's a hard question to answer, but if he's coming out this year, he's a top 10, top 5 guy if he stays healthy. You can't not have a guy like that on your team, or you wouldn't. I mean, if you have the opportunity to draft him, you got a hole at either spot. Plug and play, bring him on.
Yeah, really good player. It was very crazy watching him play 140 some snaps, like, because I was thinking it during the game, just like TCU and everyone else probably was like, oh, you should target this guy on the defense because like he's gonna be tired. He's got to be tired, right? Like, and then he just wasn't. Like, he was just going out there and had the insane conditioning to play both sides. I don't know. It's weird because like there's really not a precedent for this in today's NFL. Like, we haven't seen a two-way player like this in a long time. So it's like, I don't know, if he was in this year's class and continued on this pace, you might think that you kind of try him at both. Honestly, when I was watching him, I felt like he would be a really good receiver in the NFL. Like, I know DB is a hard position to play, especially in the NFL, and I'd say he couldn't play it, but I feel like for a more immediate like impact, you could probably get him out at receiver and dial up some packages for him, and he would instantly contribute to an NFL team. But it's just so hard to really think about what the precedent could be if someone like him could actually stand doing this in the NFL. It's just a different league up there, and it was definitely an offensive shootout. So it's not like he was playing a ton of snaps on defense and like really holding it down. It's just, I don't know. It's gonna be curious to see what they do with him the rest of the year, and then next year too when he ends up coming out, if they decide to kind of specialize him in one or the other. Or if they just keep on letting him do his thing. Because, I mean, the athlete that he is, I would probably draft him in the top 10. Like, doesn't matter what you're going to want him to play. Like, just the crazy athlete, the conditioning, and obviously he's got a great mental grasp of the game, too. I mean, you have to if you play both sides of the ball. I don't know how he does it even, like, in practice week to week. Like, what does he do? Just, like, work with the defense 2 days and then work with the offense 3 days? Or something? Like, I don't know how that would work. I really don't.
That's a great point.
You're really exploring like uncharted territory with this guy, and you'd have to go to a system in the NFL that would like really like him and really let him do his thing, instead of kind of confining him into one role. But it was a good time to watch. I'll tell you that. It was that entire game. It was obviously an offensive shootout, which is classic Big 12 football for you, even Pac-12 football. Right. But it was entertaining, and he's definitely got the juice, just like the rest of that team.
Yeah, when I just think it's. Like I said, I'm like, we're talking about it. I'm going, all right, like, from a team building perspective, do you look at that and go, all right, this is a guy who can play both? Or do you start him at one, and then if that doesn't work out, you move him to the other side? Or, how do you, and does that affect his, there's so much there that's like, just like any other prospect, whoever, assuming he continues to play both sides of the ball in college at a high level, hopefully whoever ends up taking him as a pro has a good, clear plan for him. That's always the fear. And like Randy said, it's to see this level. And again, 1 week, small sample size, but to say that this was a electric superstar making performance, I don't think is too, even if this is the only time he does it, we'll probably talk about it for a while.
Yeah.
So it's going to be up there. I'm trying to think of who was the last defensive player I saw playing some snaps on offense, or other way around. And I think maybe there's some Patrick Peterson in Arizona once or twice. I don't know. They're giving
corner from New England, kid from Houston a couple years ago. Was it Jones? I think he came in.
And
nickel corner, playing some wide receiver last year. You don't see it often.
I'm sure Bill Belichick was watching that game going, everything you want, my whole kingdom for this kid. And play both ways the whole game. Yeah. All right, let's give Garrett a moment to shine and talk about his boy, his team.
Yes.
What are they again? The University of something.
The original USC, the USC Trojans. Despite this hat that I'm wearing, I am not a Michigan fan. This is just the only college football hat I have, so I decided to throw it on. USC, they are the real deal here, all right? And obviously you got Caleb Williams and that whole team. Now, they only played Nevada, right? Nevada sucks. San Jose State last week sucks. I mean, that's kind of what you get in the Pac-12. But, man, I mean, if you just watch Caleb Williams, he is something different from a quarterback perspective that we have not seen in quite some time. I mean, I don't want to do this because obviously everybody else has already done it a lot, but the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you have to do it. And that's a tough comparison to give the kid. But I mean, when you just look at him, he has that, after the play breakdown, figure it out, scramble around, and then make crazy throws. He has that in him. It's something that it's very rare to see, even in college football with the defenses that you got. It was an impressive performance from him. He's probably going to win another Heisman. Let's be real. USC is probably going to win the national championship. Let's be real.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to remind everybody real quick that Garrett is a guest here. This is not his normal avenue of.
Don't predict national champions on week after week one. I mean, come on, we're overreacting.
His opinions are just
right in stone, right?
We do not endorse, or necessarily they not reflect the opinions of the Kingdom Recon team.
Yeah. But listen, USC, they put on put on a very. I mean, you want to beat bad teams very, very handedly, and they sure did. And they have a young freshman wide receiver in Taj Robinson, I believe his name is, who was balling out. They have a lot of young playmakers. Obviously, Lincoln Riley there, one of the best offensive minds in college football history, and obviously they're flourishing because of it. And it's going to be good to see them get a real test soon. But from what you see, I mean, USC, we're going to the national championship. I mean, I hate to break it to you. It's
all right,
gonna,
all right. Let's focus back to the draft prospect part of this. I gave you your 15 minutes to go on. Let me ask this, because I hear you say, and obviously the three of us are all Chiefs fans. We dumped the Cowboys fan for a week, but let's. I just want to gauge your temperature between the three of us. Obviously, where Patrick Mahomes is at his start of his career, historic, one of a kind, unique. The comparison to Patrick Mahomes, right, between Caleb, and I understand that that's unfair, right, in the big
very unfair,
because of the situation Patrick landed in, because of all that. But am I alone, the three of us? Because I've watched a bit of Caleb Williams, because I heard that and I went, okay, no. I do see it more than I've seen it in any other quarterback in terms of that improvising, getting away from people, that like backyard football style of play. I don't know if it's the same level. I don't know. I mean, and I think Mahomes has even taken, like, he was that way in college, but I think he's taken it to another level when he's had to in the pros. He's added a clutch factor to it, which again, there's parts that I want to see with Caleb Williams, but are we maybe in agreement that the most unique trait that Caleb has is that ability to improvise.
Yeah, improvisation, you might say.
Yeah. Yes, improvisation.
For sure. I mean, you hear the comparisons about him. I mean, you look at him. He's 6'1", 215, roughly about the same size as Pat. And I didn't really buy into the full comparison until that play against San Jose State in week 0. Where either he dropped the snap or there was a fumble in the backfield. Mm-hmm. He picks up, runs around, flat foots it 60 yards in the air for a touchdown. I'm just like, that you just sit there and you're like, okay, now I see it. Okay, now I see that comparison. His ability, his athletic ability to maneuver in the pocket, escape, do some of those things that aren't scripted. And dude's got a cannon for an arm too, So I can see how you can compare some of that stuff to Pat. And again, it'll just be really exciting to see what he does, through the rest of the season. Is he the odds-on favorite to win another Heisman? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not going to go say USC is going to run the table and win the Natty. Like
I will. It's all right. I will for you. I'll say what you're thinking.
But the kid's fun to watch. I mean, absolutely. Like and like we were talking a little bit, pre-record too about the quarterback play in the Pac-12 so far in the first couple of weeks of the season. Wow. Like the Pac-12 is going to go out in a blaze of glory when it comes to throwing quarterbacks and putting up points and stuff like this, because the Pac-12 quarterbacks put on a show this week.
They sure did.
I mean, there was so many yards, touchdowns, the scores coming out. I mean, Bo Nix and Oregon putting up 81. Like,
just casually dropping 81 on poor Portland State.
I mean, Portland State.
Give up their program after that.
And I didn't necessarily want to run off on a tangent there right away, but with talking about Caleb and his draft potential.
Yeah.
Dude, he's got skills. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he's the odds-on favorite to win another Heisman. To do that back-to-back is no joke. He's no slouch. That's for sure. So he's going to be fun to watch. Absolutely. And those comparisons are just going to keep going all year long. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited.
I will say
that I'm excited to watch that kid play football. And I don't like USC. like at
Oh,
all.
you should. It's a great time. I'm telling you, it's a great time to watch. All right, you see some flying Samoans on the defense probably. I mean, at least probably 10 to 15 of them. You don't got to worry about it. You're gonna have some dogs in the wide receiver room. It's a good time watching USC football. I will say, Caleb Williams, he's a junior right now, and he did kind of say in a press conference, like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna declare next year, especially if a certain Arizona Cardinal organization decides to keep doing what they're doing and tanking for that first pick. I will say, the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, they both probably have a lot of raw aspects, when they're coming out. And not to say that, Caleb Williams or Patrick Mahomes couldn't have really elevated any team, but I do think that it would be ideal for Caleb Williams to go and find a good connection with the team in NFL. You need a guy. I mean, Lincoln Riley unlocked a lot with him, from what we've seen. I think he was a huge help, and I feel like you're going to definitely need to just kind of iron out some of those creases when he gets to the NFL. Whenever that happens, I would be shocked if he did come back another year, but it's something to think about. You kind of look at like a Sean Payton type, of a coach that can really connect with him and take him to that next level. Because I do worry about his future as an Arizona Cardinal. That is a graveyard waiting to happen. I mean, you can be as talented as you want. That is
not a great track record for high drafted quarterbacks the last few years.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a couple. I mean, I know the Cardinals look rough, and there's some other. I mean, there's some other teams like what Garrett is alluding to. Where you land really does matter, and I can already hear. Let's say Caleb Williams goes to the Cardinals or another organization that's not that's dysfunctional, and then all of a sudden we're going to hear, well, Caleb Williams, and it's all just Mahomes is just product of Andy Reid, and just reasons to hate people.
Yeah, and USC football only produced bust quarterbacks. It's it's not true. They just they're always just drafted so high that they go to horrible organizations. There have been 3 first-round quarterbacks from USC that goes to the Jets. What are they supposed to do? How are you supposed to?
No.
So yeah, I think it brings up. We mentioned some of the other Pac-12 quarterbacks and the quarterback conversation as a whole. Caleb Williams is obviously one. I think actually Caleb Williams, and I need to go watch the North Carolina game. I know Drake May threw 2 picks in that South Carolina game, and
very pedestrian game compared to a lot of guys.
Not the most inspiring. So it's maybe, but we'll see. Michael Penix Jr., man, every time I watch him, his arm, you talk about a cannon for an arm, and a dude who his story is awesome. I think coaches are going to love him as a personality, the grit that he's shown. He came back from some major injuries. I think right now he's hands down my QB3. We've talked about Bo Nix. We talked about Sanders from Colorado. There's a lot of guys this year, even the Florida State quarterback. Right now, if the draft happened tomorrow, you'd be having a lot of conversations about how many quarterbacks you're going to squeeze into this first round.
It does seem like a better quarterback draft than in past years for sure.
Yeah, I think there's more depth in this one than there has been in a while.
Absolutely.
We've had some big prospects here or there, but it just feels like there's not to say that you want to wait till day 2, but it would not surprise me if there's some of these guys that last. So that covers USC and Nevada. We talked about Randy. I know you said you watched the Washington Boise State game. Was there any other players you wanted to talk about from that game? I know Penix was a big one for both of us.
Yeah, Penix, like you said, watching that guy throw a football the way the ball jumps out of his hand, it looks effortless, and he's incredibly athletic. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Penix is probably sitting quarterback number 3 right now. Even I don't see it. I don't see any realm of possibility where he can end up being quarterback 2. If he has just another solid year. One of the guys that I highlighted in my 10 guys in the first episode, looking at the wide receiver Rome Odunze, had a big game. 7 catches, 132 yards and touchdown. He just looks the part. He's probably one of my top overall wide receiver prospects in this coming draft. But Penix had some other guys step up too. Jalen Polk had 3 catches for 100, a little over 100 and a touchdown. Jaden McMillan had 8 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he had some other guys besides Rome step up and play, which is always awesome to see. Some other guys you might not expect right off the bat, but he's got some targets and stuff. And it's the Pac-12 quarterback play, like I said, was just stupid. But it was a lot of fun to watch that Washington offense play.
Yeah,
I mean, Boise, the matchup between them and Boise is not what it was, say, 10 years ago. When Boise, up and relative, but
Kellen Moore back in there.
It's still a good football program. But Washington's offense is going to be fun to watch with Penix at the helm.
When I was watching Penix and some of it made me think of Justin Herbert a little bit, like just in terms of I know he's in the division and we don't want to give him any credit, but we don't talk about those people. The kid's got a good arm, he's got a live arm, and just like you talk about, like, if Patrick Mahomes wasn't Patrick Mahomes, Herbert, but also Penix that same way. Like you almost don't expect it because he looks a little thinner, a little, but he just throws some absolute lasers. You mentioned the list that we did last week. I think we've covered a lot of the guys that we've talked about. There's one I wanted to just shout out before we talk about one more game, just from my list. And I'll just be fully honest, I haven't had a chance to fully watch the game. I've just saw the stat line and saw a couple of highlights. But Latu from UCLA, the defensive end, and they played Coastal Carolina. So again, not the highest level of competition, although Coastal isn't.
Coastal finished in the top 25 last year. They played well.
Yeah. 3 sacks for Latu. I think 10 pressures. Just sounds like he had a game. Again, with him, the medicals are going to be pretty big, and but he's a guy that I'm excited to watch more of. Not that the Chiefs need another edge rusher right now, but man, you can never have too many, especially when they may need help in the pass rush. But that's a conversation for the Kingdom Sets podcast, not this one. Last game matchup of the night that we're going to talk about before we get on out of here. Definitely a surprise, and definitely left me looking a little silly. Clemson and Duke. And Duke got the definitely called an upset. And not just like a last-minute field goal upset. They handled Clemson.
Embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not a good showing for the Clemson Tigers. And
that's just what happens when Riley Leonard runs wild on you,
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Again, we're talking about quarterbacks. Riley, that's a guy who, if I'm a scout and I'm looking at day 2 guys, maybe not the best passer, but had a really successful game on the ground. Really,
he can run.
That kid's way more athletic than I thought or would have given him credit.
Why would you think that, Randy? Is it because of his skin color? Is it because he's a white guy?
Nope. I know plenty of
or
those.
Is it because he plays for Duke and he should probably be on the basketball team instead of playing
probably
football?
Yeah,
probably.
A kid that I literally knew zero about going into that game, but
I don't think many people did. Yeah,
play out. He's a junior. He's not physically imposing by any stretch of the imagination. Was okay as a passer. He finished at a little over, right around 50% passing completion. Didn't crack 200 yards, but did a lot of work on the ground. He had 8 carries, almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Moved around, did what he needed to. And the thing that still just stymies me is just Clemson put up 7 points against the vaunted Duke Blue Devil defense.
I don't know if I could name somebody on that defense.
Absolutely. I absolutely could not at this
my
point.
life were on the line.
Yeah, not a clue. Couldn't. Nope. And guys that were highly touted, like Will Shipley had a decent game. 17 carries. I think he had a little over, right around 120 yards rushing or something like that. But they couldn't put the ball in the end zone. And I think one of the biggest things, we had talked about a little bit pre-record too, is that the Clemson defense and some of the the dudes that we highlighted in our 10 guys.
Yep.
Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I figured like this would be a great game for him to kind of showcase his skills, being able to cover sideline to sideline, blitz, make tackles, cause some chaos. Non-existent. Like the dude had 5 tackles, 3 of them were assisted. That's it.
Well, I think
he wasn't a factor. Like,
well, not just that, but
what happened?
The lack of in a game like this, it was the lack of like meaningful, because I picked all 3 of the linebackers or the whole, both the linebackers for and and there's other players on this team, Ruke Aurora Rojo, who's the defensive tackle, is a guy that some people think is, could be in the conversation for the top tackle. Barrett Carter, Andrew Mabuka. These are guys who the impression early on is they're going to be draftable players, right? There just wasn't that like meaningful. There weren't meaningful splash plays. There weren't plays where I went, oh man, like
they looked flat and uninspired. Like
they look like they slept walked into that.
Beat, yeah. They thought they had Duke beat before they even hit the field, and it was not the case. You got to show up and play, regardless of who's on your schedule. If you think it's a cupcake or a bye week or whatever you want, whatever you're trying to put off in your brain, like you strap it on, you get on the football field, you play football. Like,
it's disappointing to see such high quality, high level athletes come out and not do what they're not live up to those expectations, just in the sense of, hey, this is this is a long season.
Sure.
And if you got to turn it around quick. If that's hopefully it lights a fire, but it's not encouraging from. And I will say this: Clemson's always kind of had some weird defensive philosophies that make me go, why are you using that guy that way? Clemson has struggled the last couple of years, and it's just I don't know. I don't follow Clemson real well, but it seems like they were, at one point supposed to be this kind of powerhouse, and then they've really fallen off. And I'd hope that the talent on that defense is put in a better position to succeed. Hats off to Duke for doing their thing.
Duke showed up and played.
Riley Leonard might be a star in the making too. We don't just another quarterback to add to the list.
But it'll be interesting to see if those Clemson studs come and play a little bit more inspired.
I didn't see the full game, but I did see some clips, and it definitely, like Randy kind of said, it seemed like they kind of had it penciled in that they were going to beat Duke before kind of even going in, and they didn't really show up too much. Like I said, there wasn't many splash plays. The Clemson's offense was very uninspiring. I mean, they're really missing DJ Uiagalelei this year, at that quarterback.
Oregon State.
Yeah, exactly. The defense just kind of was sleeping a little bit. It seemed like they were sleeping and letting these big plays just develop. I mean, there was that one touchdown run that Duke's quarterback had where it's just like they all just kind of got on him, didn't wrap him up, and then he just scrambled away for this touchdown. So definitely seems like, hopefully you can get a fire lit underneath them. Dabo and the guys can turn that around, because Clemson's supposed to be like a top dog program, and that's not how you start off the year as a top dog, losing to Duke, losing to some basketball players.
No, that was not in their plan for the season, guaranteed.
All right, guys. So that covers, I think, all the big headlines. I'm sure there's things that we missed. A lot of college football to watch. So if you're listening and you are watching, and there's something that you want us to look at, give us a holler. I'm still playing catch up. Randy got to watch a lot of games this weekend, but it's hard to catch them all. So
I mean, it's
like playing Pokemon.
You get COVID, so you got to sit at home, but at least you get.
Randy would have liked to see a couple less games and see one or two more particular games. But
I had big plans, but COVID said no.
Well, we're just glad you're doing better and healthy and happy and ready for Colorado, right? Your Huskers are hopefully ready. We'll see. So, as always, thanks for joining us. And as I said at the top of the show, like, review, all that stuff. That's great. But just come with us on this journey. I think it's going to be a good one. We will be back soon. We've got a conversation coming up about running backs that I think is going to be really, really fun. So make sure you're following us on socials. I am at Arrowhead Tom. Randy is at the Chief of the North, not to be confused with the Chief in the North or any other person. And then Garrett is at Garrett720. We are presented by the Kingdom Says podcast. You can find them over at the Kingdom Says Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, MySpace, Yahoo email, AOL Instant Messenger, ICQ, MSN Messenger, the whole shebang. Garrett's
whole 9 yards, yeah.
All lived up there. So thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for joining us, friends, and we will talk to you guys very soon.